Saturday, September 8, 1900. I am the storm. You do not see me coming, distracted as you are with your instruments, your busyness, and your expectations. You might want to pay attention before I destroy everything in my way.
I am Rosina. All my life I could see things that I knew were true, but that nobody else could see. But the power would come and go. They called it a gift, but it was as much a burden. It was a wild thing. I could never find a reliable way of directing or controlling it. I suppose that was Mama's gift, to make this talent work for her. But I felt good with my power when Tomas first came to me, and I knew a new life could be waiting for us, provided we could save his. But when Sarah began appearing to me, I wasn't so happy with my gift, and I wished I could turn it off like a switch on the wall.
Could not believe my good fortune that Sarah had decided to forego church and come swimming with me. Okay, kick your legs. Now spread your arms out in front of you, cup your hands, and pull the water back. Don't struggle. Just take it nice and easy. I'm holding you up. Keep kicking your legs.
Tom, I'm swimming! Just like the baby's swimming in me.
We swam every Sunday as the summer wore on. She had grown large in the front, but we laid together like spoons in the drawer. As there had been no reason to stop, we went on making love, gently and slowly, like a gulp on a still morning.
He smelled like coal when he came home, of steam and grease. But after he took a bath, he smelled clean like wood. Oak, maybe. I could drink in his scent. Sister dearest, I have grown as large as a house. Tom works 6 days a week as a locomotive operator at the Galveston Wharf rail yard. His job is shuttling cars to and from the ships, making up trains, switching them around. When he's home, and with my condition, he's so sweet. I feel blessed. To allay your fears about swimming, this has proved to be an enjoyable activity for both of us. And I am utterly convinced good for the baby, too. Tom is a wonderful teacher. The weather's been perfect for swimming, hot and still. We try to go early. That's our Sunday. Our outdoor church, as Tom calls it. Then on Monday, he's back at the wharves making up trains, and I'm home sewing clothes for the baby, and lots of naps for me and the little one. With love, Sarah. I imagine the church women would have been shocked and appalled if they knew that my husband and I were still making love. I had grown so large that Tom could not lie on top, but we lay on our side and he slipped easily into me from behind, and we awoke by degrees with the urgency of our passion. Oh, we found a way, and more than one at that.
August moved on, days ticking by. As best we could estimate, the baby would arrive mid-September. Sarah was convinced it would be a boy by the way she carried her. And I pondered how much I would have to save up for a down payment on a house of our own. Or I would build one myself, strong with extra high pilings. You know, running a switch engine is rather like commanding a tugboat in the harbor. Necessary, if short on glamour. On the other hand, I saw a future with the Galveston Wharves Railroad and a chance for promotion. I resolved to invest in a box of good cigars to pass out amongst my fellow workers when the baby came. Sarah and I took our last swim on August 19th.
Look, Tom, he's kicking. I think he wants to find his way out.
Hello there, little fellow. Wednesday, the 5th of September, I was on break in the rail yard when word came in that a storm was on its way, coming from Cuba. I was told to take a train and a crew out to meet a barge and pile driver to reinforce the bridge supports. There were no warning flags up yet, and my boss, Mr. Lewis, said that some people thought the island was immune to big storms, but he wasn't one of them. At the end of the day, I was ordered to meet the crew at noon, and I told my fireman, Gordy, to arrive half an hour early so that there was time to check everything.
My hero returns. Our little one has been bouncing around like a ball inside of me all day. I'll have your supper ready for you after you have your bath.
Hello, sweetheart. It's good to be home. There's a storm coming, did you hear?
Yes, I heard from the neighbors. I'm worried, Tom. Do you have to work when it's like this?
Well, it's my job. Besides, I'm sure it's just a normal blow. I haven't even put up storm flags yet. I have to take a work train out to work on the Bay Bridge. And my boss, Mr. Lewis, he took me off my other job and chose me especially for this one. I don't want to get ahead of myself and put the cart before the horse, but I take it as a good sign. It shows he has some faith and confidence. I saw no noticeable change in the weather Thursday morning as I eased the work train out onto the causeway. Gordy proved to be an agreeable companion. In all my years of railroading, those few days stand out as amongst the most pleasant I had ever experienced. It seemed to me like the future stretched out indefinitely, bountiful, blessed with a loving wife and a little one on the way. Come Saturday morning, we could hear the surf crashing at intervals like cannons going off, so we knew something was coming. A light rain was falling when we kissed the doorway.
Be careful, darling.
The day went on, the rain began falling harder. Crash on the bay, the wind whipping out of the northeast. You know, if I had grown up on the island, I would have noticed something strange about the wind coming from the north and the heavy surf. Normally, a strong north wind would push the waves away from the beach. The water would be flat and no surf at all. But these were big waves. By noon, the wind commenced to shriek and howl. The barge would slam against the pilings. You could see the captain of the pushboat gesturing as his arms waved in the air. In the late time since I had last glanced down, the water had risen high against the pilings until it was almost even with us. But we could see the anxious faces of the deckhands as they scurried to cast off their lines. We were at least a quarter mile out on the bay. I eased in the brake and tried to put the engine in reverse, but I waited too long. In the sky turned to water, and the water turned to sky, and the screams of men joined the mayhem as a towering wave rose above and there. On it, like a dream, hallucination. Ocean-going ship. Sarah? Saw the girl at church booth selling pastries. The young woman I had met on the train. Sarah. My wife. The little one she carried. Then came an explosion, wrenching darkness.
That Saturday morning, September 8th, I told Tom I wished he didn't have to go to work, regretting the words the instant they left my mouth. He said if it starts to flood, go to the Tremont Hotel. It's one of the highest buildings downtown. Better safe than sorry. And then he took me in his arms and kissed me and was gone. I tried to attend to chores, but the kind of agitation persisted, and I lay down a while. The baby seemed restless. The rain grew stronger. Water began to collect in the streets. Around 9 o'clock, I heard shouting and went to the door. People were returning from the beach saying the bathhouses, huge structures, had been completely demolished by the crashing waves. I felt the baby move inside. The decision to act calmed my anxiety. I grabbed our household money, which amounted to about $30, and my own small hoard from the drawer. On impulse, I ripped my mother's old quilt from the bed. With a final glance, shut the door to the cottage behind me. I did not think to lock it. Rain blew hard on the low clouds as I waded towards the trolley stop. By the time I got there, the trolley had stopped running. The water was too high. The wind was getting a lot stronger. People helped. Once or twice I swam, trailing the soggy quilt. I don't know why I held on to it. The wind shrieked and boards and roof tiles tore loose and flew through the air. At one point I froze in disbelief. As not 20 yards ahead of me, a whirling piece of slate cut a man's head nearly off. I felt my stomach heave. And I heard my own scream join in the howling chaos. I don't know how I made it to the Tremont. There were already hundreds, maybe 1,000 people packed inside. I must have lost consciousness upon reaching the safety of the hotel. I came to, seated somewhere on the second floor with my back against a wall, with the storm wailing all around us. As I felt my numbness give way, my water broke and left me in a sudden gush. Oh my God, child. You have picked the worst time imaginable to come into this world. Contractions came, mixed with shrieks and aches. My back arched, a sweat pouring from my forehead. Water was coming in through the roof. The midwife appeared. Sometime in the night, the baby pushed through. And after all that agony, popped out like a seal. Boy, as I knew it was all along. Gradually, the winds began to subside. It was sometime after midnight, and people were saying that the waters were receding as quickly as they had arisen. I held the baby to me, his mouth fastened to my breast. New life, appearing in the midst of all this death and wreckage. A tiny fist clinging to my finger. But where was my husband? Where was Tom? What had become of him? The next morning, I lay there for hours with the child, too weak to move. That afternoon, I descended to the lobby, carrying the baby in a blanket. Everything, everywhere was a soggy, ruined mess, swept flat from the beach to 5 blocks inland. Looters were being shot. 50 Negro men were drafted at gunpoint to collect bodies. We made our way to the railroad dispatcher and learned that the causeway where Tom and his men had been working was washed away. No word of survivors. Connection to the mainland was wiped out. The following days grew hot, and the sun poured down like a furnace. I sat on the curb and wept, and the child began to cry too, like a cat. Holding him before me, I regarded his tiny wrinkled face. Do you hear me, child? Your name is Tom. We are all alone now. Your father died in the storm that brought you here. We have to get off of this island. I hadn't eaten hardly any water except for a gift from some guardian angel. I was still bleeding some and feeling ill. The air so foul, I could scarcely take a breath without gagging. But for the child, I would have suffered like the rest. There was a ship headed for New Orleans. I carried the baby in the soggy quilt with a pillowcase from the hotel, with 2 hand towels and a bottle of mineral water inside. And there, wonder of wonders, inside was my money that I had tied to me. I was getting dizzy and delirious. I had to make it. On Thursday, we made our way on board the ship. At last, we pulled away from the dock, caught a breeze, leaving the poison-fetid stink behind us, and I filled my lungs with great gulps of fresh Gulf air. I prayed to God that my Tom had been blown far out to sea, and that his body had been eaten by the sharks and the fishes, and it wasn't among the horrible, bloated corpses bobbing about us. And then the whole world started spinning, and I collapsed on the deck.
My Tomas. I did everything I could to steal him from the arms of death. His body and his spirit were so broken. This was Las Vegas, New Mexico. He was found unconscious downtown by the rail yard with a really bad pneumonia. It was January 1901. Snow on the ground. I was a nurse at the hospital when I first saw him. So pale and motionless in the warm yellow bath of sunlight where he lay. Tomas was so addicted to laudanum and in so much pain. He was a shriveled mess for weeks and weeks. But I knew with the powers given me that this would be the man to be my husband and a great father to our children. He was a good man. If only it be God's will that he should survive. So each day, and sometimes on my days off, I would sit by his bed and do what I could to help him find a way out of the arms of death. Slowly, he turned back towards life. And we would talk. I learned about his wife and their unborn child. They were gone, swallowed by the great storm. As he continued to grow stronger and recover, he got a job as a clerk downtown by the rail yard. We saw each other almost every day. You should have heard my mother squeal with happiness when after 6 months together, he asked for my hand in marriage. A year later, we had beautiful twin girls. And Tomas was such a patient father to my Jesus, who was 2 years old already. Years passed and I more or less forgot about my power of seeing. And then one day I was alone working in the kitchen, and suddenly she appeared right there in the room. Oh shit! I screamed and then I crossed myself for swearing. She was just standing there. She wasn't speaking. I understood that it was Sarah, Tomas' first wife. Tomas, that is hard to say. She kept appearing to me when I was alone? Why this ghost, this poor, troubled, dead soul, keep appearing to me? I told Mother, who asked, "How do you know it is a ghost?" That she is dead. Spirits can walk the earth in many ways. This troubled me even more. Finally, I decided to tell Tomas what was happening.
Why are you telling me this?
My dear Tomas, darling, this is just something that I know. It's something that has happened. It's not what I want, believe me. I thought that she would stop appearing to me, but she didn't. I think that she's alive and that you would want to know.
Maybe we should leave the past in the past.
Darling, you need to see if you can find her. Our lives together will come to no good if you don't always try.
I don't even know where to start. I know her sister owns a cafe in New Orleans, but I don't know where it is or what it's called. It's a pretty big town.
My darling Tomas, you must do this. This has been such a giant hole in your life. Please, you have my blessing. See where this guides us.
Took a week off work, kissed Rosina, my twin daughters, and Jesus goodbye as I boarded the train to New Orleans. It's been 10 years since I last left Galveston. The wreckage, my life, so many others. At the time, I was so beat up by the storm, it took 6 weeks before I could limp my way back to look for her, Sarah, and our child. So many people died. Several thousand, they said. Unfathomable. When I arrived, I couldn't find her, and everything was just gone. A long train ride to New Orleans. My pain and torment came back full force. My leg throbbed and my face burned on the way to what I did not know. Could I even find her sister? How could Sarah still be alive? When I arrived in New Orleans, I went to the Chamber of Commerce to look through the directory of cafes and coffee shops, going to one after another. By the third day, I was depleted, discouraged. The morning air was cool and wet as I dragged myself to the next coffee shop on the list. I sat down at the counter and ordered a cup of coffee, black. Scanned the room, felt utterly alone. 10 years. What was I thinking? I was about to ask the waitress who owned the place when she appeared in the kitchen. Beth, Sarah's sister. She didn't recognize me at first, and I was speechless. Then I heard something like a wild animal yelp, followed by, "Sarah, you better come out." She appeared behind her sister, a young boy alongside her.
What? What do you... Oh my. Tom? Tom?
Hello, Sarah. Who's that with you?